Sinbad's second voyage. I had no intention of venturing the sea again, but I soon grew weary and ashamed of an inactive life. I embarked, therefore, with some other merchants, and having been at sea some time, we came to an uninhabited island. We landed and dined very heartily. Finding myself disposed to slapy, I withdrew from the company and laid myself down in a charming grove. How long I slept, I know not, but when I awoke, I perceived the ship under sail, at such a distance that I soon lost sight of her. My surprise and grief were inexpressible, but remembering it was of no use to afflict oneself when an evil is unavoidable, I resolved to suppress my unavailing sorrow. I climbed up to the top of a great tree, that by an extensive prospect I might better judge of my situation. I saw, at asterisk, the Turkish sequin is about $2. No great distance, a large white body. When I approached it, I found it so very smooth that it was impossible to climb it. It was 50 paces round, and of a prodigious height. While I was examining this phenomenon, the sky on a sudden became dark, and looking up I saw a bird of a monstrous size preparing to settle. I now knew that the bird was a ROC, and the smooth white substance was its egg. The bird alighted, and sat over the egg to hatch it. As I perceived her coming, I crept close to the egg, so that I had before me one of the legs of the bird, which was as big as the trunk of a tree. I tied myself strongly to it with the cloth that went round my turban, in hopes that when the ROC asterisk flew away, she would carry me to some place where I should find inhabitants. Accordingly, the next morning, when she took wing, she raised me with her, and when she alighted, I quickly untied the knot, which I had scarce done, when she flew away again, taking in her bill a serpent of monstrous length. The place where I was left was a deep valley, surrounded on all sides with precipices, so steep that it was impossible to climb them. I soon found that I was no way benefited by the exchange. As I walked along, I perceived the ground was strewed with diamonds. I examined them with much pleasure, but presently saw objects which at once put an end to all my agreeable ideas, and terrified me exceedingly. They had now retired to their dens, to avoid their enemy, the ROC, but I had no doubt I should have everything to fear from them at night. I immediately sought a secure retreat, and was so lucky as to find one. In the evening, as I expected, all the serpents left their dens, and came hissing about my retreat. Though they could not hurt me, they put me into such extreme fear that I could not sleep. When the day came, Mark Paul in his travels, and Father Martini in his History of China, speak of this herd, and say it will take up an elephant or a rhinoceros. VE serpents retired, and I came out of my cave trembling. And I can truly say that I walked a long time upon diamonds without having the least inclination to touch them. At last, spent with fatigue and want of rest, I was obliged to lay down to sleep, but had scarce shut my eyes when I was awakened by a great piece of fresh meat falling close to me. At the same time, I saw others fall from the rocks in different places. This circumstance gave me immediate hope of escape. I had always considered as fabulous the stories told of the Valley of Diamonds, and of the stratagems used by merchants to get jewels thence. But now I found them true. This valley, from the height and from the rocks which bound it, being utterly inaccessible to man, the adventurers come as near as may be. At the time, eagles hatch their young, and, by the help of machines, throw very large pieces of raw flesh high into the air. These falling upon the diamonds, their sharp points enter the flesh, and they stick to it. The eagles, which are larger here than in any other country, convey these pieces of meat to their nests to feed their young. But the merchants frighten away the old bird till they have examined the prey, and taken away the diamonds which may chance to stick to it. I now no longer doubted the truth of this account. I began therefore very deliberately to select the largest and clearest diamonds I could find, and having filled my provision bag with them and secured it to my girdle, I took a piece of meat, and tying it to my back, I laid down with my face to the ground. In a short time, one of the eagles seized me and conveyed me to his nest. As soon as the eagle had deposited me, the merchants, as usual, drove him away. Every merchant had his distinct nest, which was considered as his peculiar property. When the owner of the nest where I was ascended to it and saw me, he was at first much frightened. But recovering himself, he began to upbraid me with his disappointment. He helped me, notwithstanding, to descend, and introduced me to the other merchants, who heard my story with amazement. When the season for throwing the meat was over, all prepared to return to our several countries. Before we parted, I took aside the merchant in whose nest I was found, and showed him the bag of diamonds I had selected in the valley. I told him I considered him as my deliverer, and frankly offered to share them with him. He was astonished at their size and beauty, but I could only prevail with him to accept of one, and that one of the smallest, which, he said, would raise him as great a fortune as he wished for. We parted perfectly satisfied with each other, and I returned by the first ship to Baghdad. We touched at the Isle of Haha, where the trees grow that yield kipper. These trees are so large that 100 men may easily sit under the shade of one of them. They bore a hole in the upper part of the tree, whence issues a juice, which being received into a vessel acquires a consistency and becomes what we call camphor, after which the tree withers and dies. There is, in this island, the rhinoceros, a creature less than the elephant, but greater than the buffalo. It has a horn upon its nose about a cubit long, which is solid and cleft in the middle. There are upon it drafts representing the figures of men. The rhinoceros fights with the elephant, runs his horn into his belly, and carries him off upon his head. But the blood and fat of the elephant run into his eyes and make him blind. He falls to the ground, and what is very astonishing, the ROC carries them both away in heap claws to be meat for her young ones. On my arrival at Baghdad, I gave large sums to the poor, and lived honorably on the vast riches I had acquired with so much danger and fatigue. Sinbad gave the porter another purse of 100 sequins, and invited him to return the next day. If you liked the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you get the next episode as soon as it's out. And make sure to like the video because it really helps us keep going. Are you ready to find out what happens next? The answers and decisive confrontations are waiting for you in the next episode, coming very soon. Don't miss it. At the end of the video, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next episode, coming soon.